Hello, and welcome back to the Holistic Frugivore podcast. My name is Jess, and I'll be your host. So last week I did this Solar Plexus episode, and it didn't upload, and I didn't get it put up. So that is why I've gone a week without having an episode posted, but I am doing it today. If you're listening in the future, you won't even know that there's a gap because you'll just be binging the episodes. So, catching up from a missed week now. So we'll see if I do 2 this week to make up, or I might just keep going week to week. But anyways, today we are looking at the third chakra. So our third chakra is the solar plexus, and it's associated with the color yellow. And it sits just below the rib cage, around the diaphragm. And it's associated with self-esteem, individual power, individuality, and confidence. And it's the top of our lower chakras. So the root, sacral, we've already talked about. This is the solar plexus. And this is the top of our physical grounding chakras. So the next one we're going to talk about is the heart, and that is kind of our link between the lower physical grounding chakras and the upper, more astral consciousness chakras. So this is kind of our final one that really grounds us as a human in the physical form, gives us our self-power and our strength. So it's an important thing for us to, work our way up in balancing the chakras, because if any of them are off, it throws the rest off balance as well. So it's important to begin by grounding and balancing the root, moving to the sacral, now up to the solar plexus, because we're working our way upwards. That's what kind of activates that kundalini energy and works its way up the spine, spiraling up into our the crown, which opens our consciousness to source and the astral realm and our connection to so much beyond the physical, and kind of accessing those psychic gifts and awareness that we can get to. So the solar plexus is the center of to act and be an individual. So being able to have a strong and balanced solar plexus is really a big aspect of our ego identity. And the ego often has a bad connotation to it. But the ego is just basically our 3D mind, the human experience. And as we can have a greater awareness and an identity with the ego, then it doesn't take over our experience. Oftentimes, if we're so ego-driven in our life, that's where we have issues with ego, coming into things like narcissism and other kind of emotional illnesses, mental illnesses like that. So as children, we're often taught to repress our emotions and feelings. So this is the chakra that really gets very affected by that emotional suppression of our feelings and feeling shame for our sadness or anger. And it really starts with the parent. So that is why I've become very conscious of parenting and how we parent, because I see the wounds that I hold from certain aspects of my childhood, as far as shaming, low self-esteem issues, kind of an emotional neglect, for lack of a better term, um, that really brought me to a lower state of, lower self-esteem, low confidence in myself and my abilities and just kind of my place in the world. So one big thing that parents talk about is discipline. And the biggest point I want to make about this is the difference between discipline and punishment. Discipline is really a correction of action of an action. And punishment is, you know, almost always a violent reaction to a situation. That violent harm, pain, fear inflicted on an individual in order to make them, pay or regret something that they did. And that kind of punishment, especially with children who are still trying to grow into themselves and grow their own confidence and consent of their own body, when that boundary is crossed of the physical infliction of harm, and yes, spanking is harm, violence, the crossing of that boundary at such a young age is really the beginning of an individual's path toward lacking physical boundaries or consent, personal sovereignty, all of those things that allow us to have power in our own body, in our own self, and not allowing others to cross those boundaries no matter what their justification is. And as parents, there's often that justification of the child needing to be disciplined or needing to be punished for something that they did or they won't learn. That's very much a parental wound. You're carrying a generational trauma from yourself that was given to you from your parents, who was likely given it from their parents. And you're carrying that trauma to your children. So that's why, as parents, we need to be aware of these things and these wounds within ourselves so we can heal in order to stop that cycle and not carrying that onto our children. So the power of our third chakra is so crucial to our power and individuality as a human and our experience and our purpose here on earth. And when you continue to cross those boundaries with punishment and harm to your children, you're beginning that cycle of taking away their own power and their individuality. It's very control-based in parenting, which is very ego-centered. Control, that fierce control of the child is based off a very overactivated ego. That's where I just said a little bit earlier about when we don't have a good awareness of the ego, it tends to take over. And that's an example of that. And then as children grow up, they lack those boundaries. They lack their own self-esteem and power, which leads into controlling behaviors within themselves, such as OCD issues, eating disorders, and addictive behaviors. Like eating disorder, I wouldn't call what I had an eating disorder per se, but that's something I dealt with as addictive eating behaviors. And it really has nothing to do with the food itself. It has a lot to do with the control around your eating habits, which oftentimes children lack their own control and boundaries around food as well. And I might start a separate podcast as far as parenting, conscious parenting. That just kind of popped in my head now. And it's so important for us to honor those boundaries with our children and allow them to lead in their own life and not control every aspect of their being. Step back, let go of the control, because that's a wound that you hold. And you don't want to carry that onto your children. Okay. So when we have a balanced solar plexus, you tend to be more responsible and reliable. Good self-esteem, a balanced ego strength, warmth and personality, confidence, spontaneity and playfulness, a good sense of humor, appropriate self-discipline. We just talked about that. A sense of one's personal power and able to meet challenges. So, and then here's a list of the traumas and abuses that tend to imbalance the third chakra. Shaming, authoritarianism, again, that's the very powerful parenting style that so many still do. And you're just starting at such a young age, suppressing and imbalancing your children's third chakra energy. Your energies are so important to balance, and you're kind of inflicting wounds so young. Volatile situations, domination of will, physical abuse. Yes, spanking is in there. Any type of physical harm to your child is abuse. No justification. Emotional manipulation. So many of us don't always realize that emotional mental abuse is just as harmful, if not more harmful, than physical abuse. And the inherited shame from parents. We could just kind of talked about that, the generational traumas. What else do we have here? So physical manifestations of an imbalanced third chakra, they tend to show up as issues within the center of your body, like the stomach, bowels, intestines, and then things like hypertension, disorders of stomach, pancreas, gallbladder, liver, chronic fatigue, muscle spasms and muscular disorders, diabetes or hypoglycemia, and digestive disorders, and then eating disorders as well, ulcers. All of those are kind of within the center of the body, that abdomen, anywhere between, the upper hip bone to the lower ribs, that whole midsection is all related to the solar plexus. So any of those digestive, intestinal issues is likely related to the energetics of your third chakra. And then we can also talk about, the other thing is issues with legs, feet, knees, and the base of the spine as well. What else can I see here? There was a quote that I wanted to touch on. Self-power is such a big thing, especially now in this era, 2020 time, and our autonomy, our personal bodily autonomy of choice, choosing what happens to your body, what gets done to your body. We have to hold that power very strongly and not let others make us feel bad for holding that boundary. That's a boundary you need to hold and hold on your own. No one's going to hold that for you. You need to hold that boundary. What else can I see here? Oh, our self-power, our freedom and free will is the most important, most central natural cosmic law of the universe. That is the one of the most important that we need to hold strong and step back into that power of our own self-worth, our own self-power, and the confidence to stand up for that power. Because like I just said, no one's going to stand up for yourself more than yourself. So we need to stop expecting others to fight for your rights or your freedom. That's something you need to hold on your own free will. So here's a quote around. Oh, and I wanted to talk about this too. It is not what happens to us, but our response to what happens to us that hurts us. So I had a conversation with someone today about our freedom to speak up for ourselves. Freedom of speech is really a throat chakra thing, but this has to do with self-power as well. And it's very easy for people to point fingers at what someone else says as a trigger to your response. But your response to something that is triggering is your responsibility. And your reaction to what someone else says or does is your responsibility, no one else's. So if you do something because of what someone else says or in response of someone else's speech or whatever it is, that is your responsibility, no one else's. So your reaction to what someone says or does is 100% on you. We need to stop projecting blame outside of ourselves. That's where our self-responsibility comes in. And knowing that you create your reality based on your reactions to triggers. And those triggers are a trigger for you because of a wound, some sort of trauma that you hold. That's not always a trigger for everybody. So if it's a trigger for you, you need to observe why that's a trigger for you and go within and seek the healing for that wound. And then it will no longer be a trigger anymore. So it's a very powerful thing when you realize that your response is 100% your responsibility, no one else's. I'm not going to find that quote that I wanted now. I think it was at the end. Oh, this is a good one. Authority relieves us of the responsibility of independent action. Wow. That's powerful, right? So if we give our power over to an authority, then that just, you handed over your personal free will to the dictations of that individual or group of individuals. And we've been doing that for millions, thousands, many, many, many years. Have we been leaning it toward the leaders, those to tell us what to do or telling us when it's okay to go back outside without a mask on or whatever it may be. That's your decision. You decide when you're done and you decide when you're going to do it. Where was sorry, I'm not finding the quote that I wanted now. That's okay. I'm getting right to the point where we're going to have to do. Oh, here's the one I wanted to talk about, shame. So shame results from almost any kind of child abuse, be it of authority, age inappropriate responsibility, neglect, abandonment, sexual, emotional, or physical abuse, or excessive criticism. That would be the one that I dealt with a lot, the excessive criticism. And it just destroys your own self-confidence. To the child who cannot explain such behavior in terms of parental shortcomings, the only conclusion is that she herself is at fault. She concludes that somehow she caused the abuse and deserved it, that she is somehow bad or unworthy of real love and appropriate care. Although this conclusion does not occur on her conscious level, it still becomes the primary shaper of behavior as the mind learns to monitor every instinctual impulse and spontaneous expression. Thus, the person becomes shame-bound by a consciousness that scrutinizes and controls in an attempt to prevent spontaneous acts from drawing more shame. So, moving forward, if you are a parent, please be very aware of how you talk to, how you speak to your children, how you discipline them, and whether it's the way you would want to be treated. I mean, that's probably the most relevant phrase ever. Treat others how you would want to be treated. It's pretty simple. And oftentimes the way parents treat their children is not the way that they would treat their partner or another loved one. Or maybe it is, I don't know. Either way, it wouldn't be an acceptable thing when it causes physical harm. So with that, I think we can move forward into the meditation. Got to bring up my music here. I hope that this is helping you, at least introducing you to these topics and how it relates to your life, because we don't realize how these things affect our daily life. All right, so let's get into the meditation. I hope you can hear the music good. So get in a comfortable seated position. You can either sit in a chair, on the floor, in a cross-legged position, whatever is comfortable for you. Close the eyes and just begin connecting with your breath. Nice deep breaths in and out your nose. On the inhale, feeling your belly rise. And as you exhale, let go of any stresses from your day, any conscious thoughts you might have, any stress, tension. Continue this breathing. And as thoughts come into your mind, you can observe them, understand that they're not necessarily your thoughts. You can observe them, see them, acknowledge them, either resonate with you or not, and then you can ask them to leave. Allow yourself to quiet down. And then bring your awareness to the solar plexus chakra, just below the ribs, the middle of your abdomen, just above the belly button. Now just imagine beautiful light beaming from front to back through your abdomen. And now imagine that as a beautiful yellow light, as bright as the sun, shining through you. Feel that light expand around you, light up your entire physical being, and then expanding outward into your aura. Creating a nice light bubble around your body. Feel that energy expanding and running through your body. This center right here is what holds our intuition. And the more connected we get with this bright, shining light, that is how we connect with our intuition, that confidence, that inner knowing that we hold, all of us hold. The inner connection to our higher consciousness, the knowledge and wisdom of the universe. Breathe into the center. Keep breathing deep. And just reflect on any feelings you might have resonated with as I spoke today, and topics that hit close to you, areas that you may feel wounded that you would want to heal. Just reflect on those feelings: shame, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, the emotional distance you might feel from your parents or others. And allow yourself to feel a sense of peace with this meditation, letting go of resentment you might feel, anger, allowing your emotions, accepting your emotions, observing your feelings. Let go of the pain you may feel. And in your head or out loud, I want you to repeat these affirmations. I honor the power within me. I accomplish tasks easily and effortlessly. The fire within me burns through all blocks and fears, and I can do whatever I will to do. Breathe deep into those. Feel them. Feel them manifest in the universe and become a part of you, creating your new reality. And you can stay in this meditation as long as you'd like, reflecting on any wounds you may feel, allowing healing to take place right now. Thank you for joining me today. Love and gratitude to you. Namaste.